I'm going to speed this up. You guys have been here way too long. I'm getting close to the end, I promise. So there's really two specific agreements. One is the agreement between you as the owner of the building or the applicant and the program itself. So this is outlining the requirements and the details of the grant. And, you know, that's things like your estimated project timeline, your scope of work, the scheduling of payments, the, you know, inspections that will happen. And so this just outlines your relationship with the city. Secondly, you have your agreements between you and your contractor. Again, we can help with this. So if you're not used to doing this, we can help with it. And we just need to make sure that it is clearly outlines the price, the project timeline, who's responsible for what, and any terms that come along with that work that you're getting done. But if you're not kind of familiar with this process, we can provide assistance along the way with this agreement as well. The owner-city agreement is pretty much a template. So we'll provide that to you to review, and we'll talk through it with you. As part of this, there's also monitoring. So we'll want to do an inspection. Generally speaking, depending on the scale and scope of your project, we'll want to do an inspection at the beginning to see how things look beforehand, grab some pictures. This might happen with that scope of work visit. And we'll also do some periodic inspections throughout the construction or the renovation to make sure that all the program rules are being followed, that you're following the scope of work that was agreed upon, and just to observe general project progress. And at the end, we'll stop by, we'll take some more pictures, we'll see the final product. This is really important because we do have to submit before and after photos with the reimbursement request. So it's actually very important that you allow us to do this, and it allows everybody to verify that the work has been completed in agreement with the different contracts that you have. So this, you know, a lot of times I find that this is a starting inspection, a midpoint inspection, and a final inspection, but ultimately that will depend on how your project is set up, how long it takes, how many components there are. And then finally, your project's done. This is where we get into the reimbursement piece. You do need to sign a property maintenance declaration. There is a 3-year compliance period. During that time, you cannot transfer the building without written approval from the city. You have to maintain the improvements that were made for those 3 years. And, you know, for residential, there is a rental threshold requirement, which we'll talk a little bit about later. But basically, this property maintenance declaration just lays out the key terms involved. This is filed as a lien on the property, so it will transfer with the property, but it's subordinated to any actual mortgages. It's just really filed with the county clerk and used to ensure continued compliance with the program. And again, it's just 3 years. They want to make sure that the improvements are maintained. So to get your reimbursement, the program, meaning us, will do the final inspection. We'll get the before and after photos, any environmental testing results, as long as you're using the flatly retesting. Otherwise, you would need to get that to us. We'll give you the template property maintenance declaration, and we'll submit a project closeout form. What we'll need from you is access to the building for the inspections. We'll need all of your invoices and proof of payment for every expenditure you made as part of the program, including your match. So we need to see that invoice from the contractor, and we need to see either some sort of a receipt or a canceled check, showing that not only did you write a check, but they actually cashed it, that the money is in their hands. It could be a credit card receipt as well. And then we need you to sign and notarize that property maintenance declaration. So we'll pull all of that information together. We'll get your pieces, we'll get our pieces, we'll submit that. The state line is that it takes 6 to 8 weeks for that money to come back. I find often it doesn't take that long, but you should plan on that long. So this process can all happen pretty quickly. It's just a matter of the environmental testing sometimes takes a little bit of time, and scheduling of that site inspection. What will happen is the state will review it. If it's approved, they'll send the money to the city, and the city will disperse it to you within a week of them receiving it. That is a guideline of the state that requires them to do that.
Tracy, I just want to add one quick thing. You cannot pay for anything in cash.
Correct.
It has to be check or however else you're going to do it, and you have to have a receipt showing that, just so you know that ahead of time.
Yes. You must be reading my notes.
Well, I just
It's great.
know it.
Yes, no cash payments and no handwritten receipts. Your friend Bob can't write a receipt for you. It has to be some kind of an official receipt or the canceled check. But yes, cash payments are not acceptable. But yeah, so it takes a little while to get the funding once you finish the project. One thing to keep in mind is they can do an interim, like phased payment. So if you can break your project down into distinct phases, they will do a midpoint payment for you to help fund the second part of the project. But you'd want to make sure that it's like, okay, I'm going to do my roof and I'm going to do my plumbing. Okay, I'm submitting for reimbursement for my roof and my plumbing, and that will lead into the next phase, which is the painting and finishing and flooring or whatever. So if you can break your project down into kind of two distinct phases, we can get you a reimbursement in the middle. But we still need to go through all these processes. You don't actually have to notarize the property declaration at that midpoint, but they do want you to sign it just to say, like, yes, I know I'm gonna have to do this. And then you can go ahead and turn around that cash and put it into the second phase of the project. Yeah. So that's the other thing I should mention about the 3-year, thank you for that question, the 3-year compliance period is that there is a recapture. And again, this isn't something to like discourage you from doing it, but just know that, you know, if you make it through the first year and then, you know, you're like, ugh, I'm just gonna completely like redo this whole building again. There is a declining recapture clause. So, and if you, in the first year, you have to repay 66% or here, let me go back to it. In the first year, it's 100%. In the second year, it's 66%. And in the third year, like before you hit that 3-year mark, it's 33%. So it's just declining by thirds over the 3-year compliance period, which also means like, if worse comes to worse, you're not stuck repaying 100% for that entire 3 years. It does have that declining, but ultimately the goal is to make it through the 3-year compliance period. Or actually, it would start with a property declaration. So when we submit that and you sign and notarize that property declaration, the date on that starts the 3-year compliance period. Residential, I mentioned this very briefly, residential rent limits. So if you have any residential units that are being impacted by the grant program, they do have to, for that 3-year term, be marketed and rented at a rate that is affordable to anyone at 100% of the median family income. So it would have an annual adjustment, but just for the sake of giving you a sense of what we're talking about here, a 1-bedroom, that would be a little over $1,600 a month. So ideally, we want it to be affordable, but we also know that the market changes, and you know, the lower you can get that rent, the better, but you would really need to comply with 100% of median family income. And this can get updated every year, and this would be subject to the 3-year regulatory term. If the unit is already filled, and it's filled at a higher rate, you don't have to lower the rate. It's only when it becomes vacant that you have to adjust to this requirement. And finally, during that 3-year period, the city will follow up and just make sure that you're complying, do a site visit, make sure that things are being maintained, that you're following that rental threshold, and it just ensures that everything is good for that 3 years. And that's it. Is anybody scared yet? I promise you don't have to be. It's a lot. There's no such thing as a free lunch, as my economics professor used to tell me. So it's not free money, but if you follow the rules and you work with the technical assistants, there are lots of projects out there happening using this funding source. It's not impossible. It's a little extra work, and we have the technical assistants to help you through that. So just know that it's all there so you can plan accordingly. The space that is impacted needs to be ready for occupancy. You more or less needs to be at the point of having a certificate of occupancy, but if there's still vacant residential above, or there's still a section of the building that is vacant because it hasn't been renovated, that's okay. Great, okay. I did it, 6:33.